Welcome, and I'd like to call the January 2019 meeting of the Lenoir County Board of Education to order, please, and ask that Mr. Nick Harvey give our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Thank you. If you please join me in the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I recognize Superintendent Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my pleasure tonight to present to you Board of Education members tonight's agenda for your consideration and hopefully your approval.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. If there's any questions, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Just a couple of quick things, because we do have, I believe, an important ball game tonight, as Mr. Hardy so quickly reminded me. I told several of the board members I feel like we've been gone forever. It's been kind of a long month in between meetings. A lot's been going on. I'd like to recognize Mr. Harris, our county commissioner, being here tonight. Thank you. I believe he's our new.
Told me we have a 15-minute speech.
Oh, he has a 15-minute speech?
He'll do it now.
We appreciate him being here. I believe he's our liaison to our county commissioners now. So welcome, and I look forward to you being here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Also, I'd like to welcome everyone back. I hope you all enjoyed your much-deserved holiday break. Hope everyone had a safe one, and look forward to getting back to a new school year, a very busy one. As they say, graduation will be here before you know it. So as in the beginning you say Christmas break, well now graduation will be upon us. So look forward to a wonderful spring, and hope it's a safe one, and welcome, like I said, want to welcome everyone back. So thank you. Now I'll recognize Superintendent Williams for his announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chairman King indicated, we do want to welcome everyone back. Our buses rolled first thing this morning and started the 2019 calendar year. Of course, this exactly marks the halfway point for the 2018-2019 school year. We had a smooth start today. All of our schools reported smooth operations. I want to thank all of our principals, all of our teachers for all that they did to make this return to school so smooth. Our teachers actually came back last Thursday, and I'm very pleased to report that we had 2 professional development institutes of innovation. First at the Pre-K 5 Institute at LaGrange Elementary School was a tremendous success, and all of our elementary school teachers participated in those professional development activities, and so many sessions going, and I walked the halls over there and the sessions were full and the teachers were engaged, and it was a positive event for all. So a great thing for our school system, and I certainly wanted the board to know how that event had gone. It was a big success for us. And our middle school professional development institute at Rochelle Middle School also was a tremendous success. And they have professional development sessions in the morning and the afternoon, PLCs, professional learning community sessions. So big success there. So I want to thank all of our teachers, all of our principals, assistant principals, coordinators, specialists, directors, everybody who had a part in making the institute so successful. Particularly our curriculum and instruction directors, Dr. Deborah Winings and Dr. Amelia McLeod, and also Ms. Amy Jones for helping in that. In high school, we did release our high school teachers from that because, as you know, today was a new school year in high school. New classes, new teachers, new everything. We ended the school year this year for the first time in many years before the Christmas break, and they took the final exams and started up a new school year. So big success there. And all of our results, by the way, from the end of course testing are not in English 2. Results are expected later in the week. But even with missing 12 days of instruction, and we made up one of those days, but 11 days missed, I am proud to report to you that our initial results show very positive student achievement gains in our end of course tested subject areas. So very pleased. I congratulate, initially, these are initial results, but I congratulate our teachers and our administrators, and most especially our students at the high school level for all their hard work in making that success a reality. It makes me wonder if we had not missed 11 days, how much even further down the road would we be? Because as you know, at the last meeting, we did the resolution and asked the state for help with accountability results. So this will be factored into that. But it was a tremendous success last week at our institutes. Tonight it's my pleasure to announce that within the past 60 days, Lenore County Public Schools teachers have won grants totaling nearly $50,000 in local, regional, and state grant competitions. 28 teachers at 7 of our schools received Bright Ideas mini grants valued at about $23,000 from Tri-County Electric Membership Corporation. 8 teachers at 5 of our schools were awarded Bright Ideas grants worth $7,550 in a statewide competition sponsored by the North Carolina Electric Cooperatives, and that's the state version of the local grants offered by Tri-County, those Touchstone Energy Cooperatives. The Lenore County Education Foundation, through the Lenore County Chamber of Commerce, awarded 41 grants valued at $17,745 to teachers at 12 of our schools. We will have these teachers present with us at the February Board of Education meeting. We're inviting them so that you can see them, and we'll recognize them in groups as they were recognized through these grant awards. Tonight we do have with us 2 other grant winners. Lenore County Extension Master Gardeners annually awards 2 $400 grants to teachers for projects related to gardening. This year the winners were Caitlin Hill of Northwest Elementary and Jennifer Grubbs of Pink Hill Elementary. Both grants represented innovation and were highly commended by the grant committees. At this time, I would like to ask our board chair and vice chair to assist me, and Mr. Hill, I think you might need an introduction to Ms. Caitlin Hill. It's Mr. Hill's daughter. But I would like you to assist me in presenting certificates to these grant winners. So Ms. Caitlin Hill, if you would come forward, and Ms. Grubbs. Ms. Grubbs. These are frequent flyers on our grants, folks. Both of these ladies are red hot for grant writing. We couldn't hold them back now if they tried. They've gotten a taste of winning grants, and you'll see their faces over and over because at these meetings, because they continue to write winning grants. We're very proud of you. Congratulations. Congratulations. We would not say that.
One, three, 1, 2, 3, 1 more. 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you.
Congratulations. I am very proud of our grants, and I'm very pleased that we continue each year to almost double the number of grants that grants and mini grants that we write and submit. So it should not be any wonder that we're now receiving 8 times the number of grants that we did 5 years ago, because we have quadrupled the number that we are submitting each year. And we continue now, at least that was true, quadruple for the past 2 years. And then this year, we're on pace to double the number we submitted last year. So the number keeps going up, and we're very proud of that, proud of our teachers and our administrators for making that a priority. The North Carolina School Boards Association Academy to School Boardsmanship would like to honor the following board members on the Lenoir County Board of Education for completion of school board training during the 2017-2018 academic year. I mentioned this at a previous board meeting, but the School Board Association has sent these certificates. I told you those were on the way. Well, they arrived, and tonight we would like to present them officially to 3 of our board members. Mr. Walter Anderson is receiving the Certificate of Achievement. Mr. Elijah Woods is receiving the Certificate of Merit, and Mr. Bruce Hill is receiving the Scholars Circle tonight. If these 3 board members would join me and Mr. King, we would like to present these certificates to you. Training hours that they received, and I gave you those numbers at the last board meeting. So this is engagement by board members and pursuing continuing professional development to increase their capacity as board members to serve our district. And for that, we are extremely grateful. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, here, gentlemen, 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Lenoir County Public Schools had 2 schools, Frink Middle School and Contentia Savannah K-8 School, to receive a scholarship from Duke Energy for Division B Science Olympiad. Each school's team was awarded $300. Science Olympiad also received a $1,000 award from Suddenlink. So congratulations to all. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any public comments? All right. That being said, we'll move to the presentation portion of our agenda, and I'll recognize Mrs. Herring for the LCPS Winter Professional Development Institute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board. It's my pleasure to share a really wonderful event we had here in Lenoir County last Friday. We've called it our Winter Professional Development Institute. Before I get started, I do want to thank all of our teachers, our staff, and our administrators, and our support staff for all their hard work. It was a great day for LCPS, and we absolutely could not have done it without the team. So we're very appreciative of that. So Mr. Williams mentioned in his opening remarks, our Professional Development Institute took place in 2 different locations, LaGrange Elementary and Rochelle Middle School. LaGrange Elementary housed all the elementary teachers and teacher assistants. Some of the middle school staff were also perfectly willing and able, if they wanted to come and attend any of the PD sessions at LaGrange, they were more than welcome to. Several of them were appropriate for middle school personnel. Rochelle Middle School housed very middle school specific professional development. It was a morning event. There were 2 sessions. The first was from 8:30 to 10. The second was scheduled from 10:30 to 12. It allowed everyone to get out in time for lunch. There was a 30-minute break in between the sessions, just in case a teacher from the middle school needed travel time to LaGrange for the next session, or vice versa. This is the lobby. You all have all been to LaGrange Elementary. This is the lobby of LaGrange Elementary. You can see where we had set up the table for people to come and check in. We had 346 teachers and teacher assistants that attended professional development last Friday. They sat in 613 sessions. So that might include one person, but they sat in 2 sessions. So we did a lot of learning last Friday. We did a lot of good stuff in Lenore County. One of the things I do want to point out in the picture, we did not provide food. We got out in time for lunch, but we did provide snacks. I mean, you can imagine providing drinks and snacks for almost 400 people. So we LaGrange set up a concession stand for us, which we really appreciated. And for a minimal amount of change, our teachers were able to get drinks and snacks. And that was extra work on behalf of LaGrange. We appreciated those efforts. So, but we had a lot of
The benefit of their STEAM club.
yes, and it was for the benefit of their STEAM club, their science, technology, engineering, and arts and mathematics. Okay, so we offered 52 separate professional development offerings last Friday. And one of the things I would like to point out in the next few slides is every one of the professional development sessions, every one of the offerings is directly tied to our LCPS goals. We don't provide any professional development that is not intentional and specific to what we're trying to accomplish and the needs of the students. So I pulled out 3 goals of the 5 that truly were underscored in last Friday's sessions. Goal 4, LCPS educators shall support systemic school improvement by implementing consistent procedures and processes that focus on the use of data to inform instruction, attending and contributing to professional learning communities, or PLCs, our teachers work in small groups, and creating and adapting curriculum guides, and administering and interpreting benchmark assessments. So I pulled out, these are names of sessions that we offered last Friday. And each one of them we were able to tie to support Goal 4. One of the things that is so wonderful, and I have a nice picture at the end of the presentation for you to see, but our 52 sessions were led by our own people, LCPS teachers, staff, and administrators, led every single one of our sessions. So it's being able to build capacity within our own ranks and spreading knowledge equally and fairly among our schools and our teachers. It was really amazing. But this is just a listing of several of the PD offerings that supported Goal 4. Many of them are based in, many of them are science specific, many of them are math specific. You notice many of them help with planning and creating lesson plans that are specific to the needs of the students that they teach. Specifically, being able to create purposeful stations in the literacy classroom. That's not just a standard, not everyone has the same centers in their classroom, for example. They're specific to the needs of the students in that room. And we offered sessions to help teachers address what those needs are and what is the best way to support students. We had workshops on English learner progress. We had workshops for how to write grants. I think we had some folks here that are actually leading those. Because the grant writing in and of itself is not helpful, but grant writing for programs and materials and initiatives that support our district goals is critical. And grant writing, being able to find the appropriate grant that supports those initiatives is key. Goal 2 for Lenore County, shall provide a positive, safe, and healthy learning environment for all students and staff. And there were 3 specific sessions that we held. One was functional behavior assessments, we call them FBAs, and behavior intervention plans, we call them BIPs, and they're always together. So if we say FBA and BIPs, you have functional behavior assessment to identify what the child's behaviors are that need addressed, and the actual behavior intervention plan is the document you create to address how you're going to support that child. And we provided additional support for teachers and administrators on how to properly identify and write these plans. We had training on de-escalation, which has been it was very receptive. Those were two of our presenters. And we also offered a session on how to be a champ in the areas of classroom and behavior management. Ms. Kim Hazelgrove, our BT coordinator, provided a session on how to have really exceptional, intentional behavior support in your classroom. So it was really well attended. She offered it twice. Goal 5, LCPS shall provide a positive, safe, LCPS teachers, I got ahead of me, shall provide quality planned instruction aligned to the standards, supported with digital integration, monitored with assessments, and measured by proficiency and growth indicators. So the ones listed on the top were all of our technology-based sessions that we offered. The ones on the bottom were sessions that we offered that help us monitor the growth of students by giving assessments as we go through the course of the semester and the year, and help us measure the proficiency and growth. EVOS, Mr. Brian Corey did 2 great sessions on the ins and outs of EVOS. It was when I went in to see his in particular, everyone was so engaged. I took lots of pictures, and I have been sending those pictures to the people I took pictures of. I would send them to them and say, caught on candid camera or whatever. And no one realized every picture of everyone I took in his session. Emailed me back, like, we didn't even really remember you even coming in the room. Like, who took the picture? I'm like, it was me, and I went in, but everybody was so engaged and working so hard, they didn't really notice me. Using map data to guide our instruction, DIBELS and TRC, which I know we talk about often. It's something we constantly go back to, and using SchoolNet is also a constant assessment that we use to measure instruction and learning. And so we had sessions on that as well. I mentioned earlier that the session leaders were our very own LCPS staff. I didn't have a screen large enough for everybody, but we had principals. I know Ms. Woods, Ms. Pierce offered some sessions for us, but some of our district staff. We had most of the instruction came from teachers in our buildings. And our EC staff, extended EC staff, curriculum experts in the buildings. So it was a really great experience. We're going to reproduce this on February 18th, which is our next work day, and offer these professional development opportunities again so that people can attend ones that they didn't have time to attend Friday. And we know that there was some interest in some. We had to close the sessions out once they got to 20. And so I know that there are some additional sections that we'll offer on February 18th, so we can accommodate the interest and the need of our staff. But that is the end of my. Do you have any questions? I'll try to answer them.
We believe that this professional development is an essential part of what we're doing. We believe that that's why every elementary school in Lenore County for the last 2 years has met or exceeded expected growth. That's why every middle school in Lenore County has met or exceeded expected growth. And that hasn't happened before, but over the last couple of years, and 3 of our 5 high schools met or exceeded expected growth. And the 2 that didn't were very, very close and will this year. It means that we don't have the haves and the have-nots. We don't have good professional development at this school, but not over here. That we are closing those gaps, and we're saying that all teachers will have the same high-quality professional development, and all of our kids will benefit to the same degree, and it's showing up. The evidence is in student achievement, and we're very proud of that in both proficiency and growth. So we believe that professional development is the lifeblood of that, nourishing that growth and those positive steps forward for us.
Thank you, Mrs. Herring. Our next item is Lenore County Public Schools Science Olympiad Initiative. That'll be Mrs. Herring and Dr. McLeod.
I'd like to introduce Dr. Amelia McLeod. She's our middle school's director, and she is going to share with you where we are with regards to our Special Olympics. We were scheduling and working on that today too. on our Science Olympiad teams and all of the competitions and expos we have coming up. So,
Thank
Dr.
you.
McLeod.
Thank you. I'm excited to share with you a very brief update about the activities that really are a part of the LCPS STEM plan that we have. And the activity goal specifically is to create extended learning opportunities for all students. And our students get to participate in the North Carolina Science Olympiad, and that really elevates learning activities as well as competition. So the Division BC tournament is going to be held at LCC. That's our middle school and high school competition on February the 16th. And as Mr. Williams mentioned earlier, we had two coaches that actually were awarded their registration scholarships from Duke Energy, and those two schools were Frank Middle School and Cantinia Savannah. So we're very excited about those scholarships. The Division A tournament, which is our elementary school, will be March the 16th. It's a Saturday, and it will be at Northwest Elementary. And the state officials did notify us that Outlay, which is the parent company of Suddenlink, wanted to let us know that they were willing to scholarship us some money for our elementary, so we're excited about maybe purchasing some equipment so that our students can have some hands-on experiences before the competition. And we're very excited about that grant as well. I personally want to invite you, if you have not attended a Science Olympiad tournament, to please come out to our elementary tournament at Northwest on March the 16th. And if you would like to volunteer for an event, I promise you, you will have the most fun seeing our students engage in that competition. It is not hard. It was my first time last year, and it's probably one of the best experiences that you can have. And I tell people all the time, if I had been taught science the way we do things with Science Olympiad, my career path may have been different. So please come out and join us in
70
that.
volunteers right here, I think.
I was gonna
That's
ask,
right.
what does volunteering entail?
Volunteering, it can be as much or as little as you like. And I'll be getting a Google form out very shortly about the events and the opportunities, because it could be registering, it could be helping students move from one area of the school to the other, because we're very cautious about making sure that all students are supervised during that event. So.
Many of our retired educators who are in the audience would make great volunteers.
Absolutely. And we need lots of volunteers to make the event successful. So, and the last thing I want to mention and invite you to, because we do have such a strong focus on science, we're doing a science showcase at the Kinston Community Center on January 17th. That's next week. And these showcase projects are all of the students that have already been identified as science fair winners at their school. The students that are showcased on the 17th are the students that will be representing LCPS at the regional science fair at East Carolina University in February. So please come out. That is at 6:30, and we're going to just continue to excel and to promote science and math and technology and engineering for all of our students. Thank you.
Any questions? The Woodman next week, 17th, 6:30. Excuse me, the Kinston Community Center. Excuse me. Thank you, Dr. McLeod. Our next item is school safety update. Mr. Harvey and guest, Mr. Tom Vermillion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Mr. Vermillion comes forward. If you recall, last year we provided a presentation detailing the Lenore County Public Schools school safety information, including mandated drills, community partnerships, and a goal to create a measure of uniformity at our schools. Since last year's presentation, Lenore County Public Schools has conducted 170 fire drills, 17 lockdown drills, 17 tornado drills, and 1 active shooter drill located at Cantinia Savannah School, with the assistance from law enforcement. At this time, all schools are currently up to date with their mandated drills. Also, during last year's presentation, we declared our goal to close gaps at our facilities and establish a minimum standard of safety care. We found that in addition to school system dollars, in many cases, several schools historically received outstanding support from their PTAs to enhance school safety needs. Over time, this created disparities in the level of enhanced measures at school sites. Tonight, I will provide an update on phase 1. At this point, 7.5 schools have been completed. As a part of the minimum standard of safety, we want to ensure that all schools were equipped with a locked front door with a buzz-in system and camera feature to clearly identify visitors, and also access control doors to prevent entry of non-school personnel, and to clearly identify visitors. Also, we found that video surveillance is a vital piece of safety measure. Down East Protection Service has been our service provider for many years and has assisted us as we move throughout phase 1. Tonight, Mr. Tom Vermillion, owner of DEPS, is here to provide details on where we are regarding this project and briefly discuss our next steps. What he's scrolling through now are live images. This is not, they're not recording, it's not posted images. That's a live shot at Rochelle Middle School. You can see how clearly detailed those photos are, those images are right now. And once he scrolls through our upgraded camera systems, he'll show you what they used to look like. And some of our principals in the back still have some of those old cameras, but we promise you help is on the way.
I don't want to show the bad ones.
Right.
That's good.
That's an older camera. That's currently LaGrange Elementary School, Ms. Bell. You may recognize that. That's not a bad image, but it's not as clearly detailed as the image you just saw. So once we complete upgrades in the entire system, all of our schools will have those crystal clear cameras. What these cameras do offer, they offer the ability to record images and store them for 30 days on their hard drives or memory drive. We're able to share those images with law enforcement. Also, with the assistance of Mr. White, now law enforcement, Lower County Sheriff's Department and Kenton Police Department have access to these cameras. So if an incident were to occur at one of our schools, they can arrive at the scene, pull out their tablet, their laptop, what have you, and they can actually see what's going on in our schools as well. That's a nighttime image. I think that's Rochelle Middle School's courtyard. Very clear, and it's actually a lot clearer on the device that Mr. Vermillion has in front of him. That's a front door image of Rochelle. That's the exterior gym. If you go to North Lenore, I think their gym. That's the gym lobby at North Lenore. Our principals that have Access Northwest just got the newly installed systems are currently so far Northwest Elementary School, Southwood Elementary, Continue Savannah, Southeast, Moss Hill, North Lenore High School, Rochelle Middle, and Banks. South Lenore High School will be, I think that's the next phase, next step, Mr. Vermillion, on your list.
South Lenore, yes.
South Lenore High School, and then we'll work our way. So far, right now, we've completed 7.5 schools. The half is Southeast. What we did, we addressed their new pre-K site, and then we'll go back and address the existing cameras that are currently at Southeast. That's at North Lenore High School. Is currently having basketball practice at this time. I'm sure our athletic directors and our coaches would love access to this so they can sit in their homes and watch practice. But I assure you they won't have access. Any principals want to share what you've been able to do? Mr. Respis had a situation in his school last fall where law enforcement praised our new camera systems, were able to apprehend a suspect that had visited his campus unannounced. Anything you want to say about that, Gil?
Yeah, I will say that I spent a good part of the weekend out there. The cameras were able to get an image that we could track him. He was on our campus, I think, for 4 hours. Outside, never inside, but we could track him step by step across our campus, and law enforcement were able to get a facial image of him in one particular case. So it was very, very, very beneficial. Had it not been for a lot of our new cameras, we would not have been able to do that. So it's greatly appreciated.
And that individual had a mask and a hood on the whole time, but took it off just momentarily, but the quality of the image was so good.
Just for 5 seconds.
Was so good for just a moment that it captured the facial shot. So. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, I want to thank the board for giving us an opportunity to come and help really do something that we need to do, protect our kids. It's one of your goal number 2. It's not just safety in the classroom, but just make sure the facilities are safe. And so as Mr. Harvey said, with cameras, access control, we're really trying to control who can be in the buildings, and if they're around the campus and not supposed to be, we're going to have a good idea of who that is and why they're there, or what they're doing there. One of the other pieces that we're going to be doing, hopefully we'll get February, maybe March at the latest, is going to be incorporating the cameras and access control, but it's going to be an active alert system that we've, Mr. Williams and Mr. Harvey have seen, our law enforcement have seen it, and it's going to be an added piece to this that I think you guys are going to think I think it's awesome. My kids went through the school system here. If they were here, I'd want you guys to have it. But basically, if something does have an active shooter situation happens, which you hope never does, but you got a plan that it could, just like these other communities around the country didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. And so what this allows you to do is basically an app. You hear an active shooter situation, you see or hear the gunshots, you immediately open the app, press the active alert that something's going on. Map pulls up of your school, you point where that activity is, cafeteria, hallway, wherever it is. That immediately gets sent to a monitoring station that then gets a hold of the camera system, logs into the camera system just like we are, and they can begin to track while law enforcement's on the way to the site. They can begin to track where this person goes. Every teacher, every classroom, smart board, this would pop up showing where the person is. As they're moving, if the monitoring station can see them moving down the hallway, then you're going to see it move as it goes. So teachers know, I got to lock my door down now, or it's in another building, I can get my kids out. I mean, however we end up deciding how that should happen, they're going to have more information that's going to be vital to protecting as many kids as we can. So I really do think that's going to be a thing. Hopefully in February or March at the meeting, we'll give a full presentation that'll share all the details with that. But I want to give you that's coming. So,
and this is a response to, if you remember, former Chairman Sargent asked, what did we need? Well, we needed funding. So during the budgeting, yearly budgeting process with the county commissioners, and we thank them greatly, we requested additional funding to assist with meeting our target goal. In addition to our initial request, the county commissioners graciously allotted significant funding specifically for funding school safety measures. So we thank you, county commissioners. We thank you for your support, because we could not have done it without their help. And as Mr. Vivian said, our next steps are to continue to fill our holes, to complete phase 1, enter into phase 2 with the active alert system, and also keep the board updated on where we stand with our school safety. So I thank our principals for their patience, and we thank Downey's Protection Systems for being a good partner. I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Our next item is our financial statements and auditors report for 2017-18. Mr. Adams and guest, Mr. Davenport.
Well, it's time for the highlight of the evening. The presentation of the audit for the year ended June 30, 2018. I think everyone has a bound copy, and I think got an electronic copy a few days ago, so I'll mostly just hit highlights, because, you know, I could talk about this stuff for an hour, but I know we don't have that long, so we're going to try to pack it in about 10 minutes. How about that? So first, I'd like to thank Superintendent Williams, Finance Officer Eric Adams, the staff, which would consist of program administrators, accounting department personnel. They are certainly crucial in helping us complete the audit in a timely manner. They put up with us while having to continue to do their day-to-day activities and, you know, gather information, have it ready when we need to be there. We all had some hurdles this year. We missed days due to the flood, got us behind, everyone. So certainly just like to recognize those folks that help and are a part of the final product here. So having said that, I'll just mention a few items in the statements. Pages 1 and 2 are the auditor's report, and basically that states that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, and that's what's called an unmodified opinion. That is the opinion that we've always issued, Lenore County Board, so that is the opinion that you strive for. Getting into some details, if you'll flip over to Exhibit 4, which is on page 12. The school systems has a fund structure that basically every system in the state has to adhere to. You have a state fund and a federal fund that where you report the activities that flow through North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. But the areas that I'm going to focus on are the local funds. That's the funds where you have the most control over, and that's where you look at those funds to determine your financial stability, etc. So you have two funds that are local operating type funds. That is it's called the general fund in the statements, but you know it as current expense fund. And Fund 8, which is called the other restricted fund, for lack of a better term. So you have to really look at those two in total to determine the results of local activity. So at the bottom of page 12, you will see the net change in fund balance, and at the bottom line is your actual fund balance as of the end of the year. Now you will see that in the general fund you had a large loss, and in the other restricted fund you had a significant profit. Combining those two together, you still had a loss, and it was similar to those funds in the prior year. So basically, you know, the loss was budgeted. You know, you did budget some fund balance into the 17-18 year, so it was an anticipated loss. But it does reduce your fund balance, and it has for the last few years. Now, these funds are still financially stable, but, you know, in a few years you will have to eventually balance these budgets to, you know, stave off the depleting of the fund balance there. But those funds are financially stable, as I said. Capital Outlay Fund, it's actually not presented in this statement. You have to go back to Statement 12 on page 58 to see the details. But I just would like to point out here that the fund had a large loss, but it was due to a timing issue. You had a large profit in that fund last year, and what happened, you sold selected iPads because you refreshed your lease, and that money came in prior to June 30, 17. You actually paid a debt service payment related to all that in July of 17, which is in this new year. So even though you went from a large profit to a large loss, you really consider those 2 years together, and it's more of an even result, which is kind of what you would anticipate from capital outlay. The last fund that's basically under local control is Child Nutrition Fund, and this is the only fund in your statements that is operated like a business. It has different type accounting requirements. Fund has done exceptionally well the last 2 or 3 years once this the no-cost meal policy was implemented. Really had profitable years, and for the first time this past year, you were able to fully fund the cost that can be paid to the local funds, which is called indirect cost. There's a computation that the state gives you that allows certain funds to be transferred from child nutrition back over to local funds, and you were able to transfer $420,000 back to the local funds to assist in other endeavors. So that was, even though the profit was less than last year, you were able to provide more in indirect costs, and by the way, the state caps how much working capital you can keep in this fund and requires you to come up with a plan to not exceed that certain amount, and you're basically there. So you're having to, on a yearly basis, come up with a plan to not increase your fund balance, believe it or not. So that's actually a good thing. This year, the fund actually made some major improvements and did some significant repairs to assist going forward in future years as well. So that kind of summarizes the financial results. Second part of our audit is called a compliance audit. Yearly, we look at various state and federal grants to determine whether the school board spent the money in accordance with grant requirements, state statute requirements, etc. And this year we looked at, on the federal side, Title I, and on the state side, State Public School Fund, and the state appropriation for school budgets, which is a very small one. Overall, those programs account for 79% of the state and federal dollars that you receive. State Public School Fund is, by and large, a huge grant. So it's divided into many different areas, but it's all called State Public School Fund. So in our compliance audit, we found no compliance findings to report to you tonight. So that's a really good result. $70+ million of total federal and state awards. So that's certainly a significant achievement. And we did have one finding last year dealing with personnel activity reports in the Child Nutrition Fund, and that was corrected. So again, good results in compliance. The last item that I'd like to mention to you is regarding internal controls. As we do the audit, we come across things that we see that we feel like could be improved upon. We have to analyze them and put them in basically 3 categories. The first is called a material weakness. That is a deficiency such that there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of your financial statements might occur. So that's the high level of internal control deficiencies. We did not have any of those. And the second level is a significant deficiency. That's a deficiency that is less severe than material weakness, but we feel that it is significant enough to warrant the attention of the governing board. And we had 2 of those, and I'll go ahead and mention they are actually in detail in the back of your report on pages 67 and 68. Number 1 relates to accrued liabilities and the recording of them on a periodic basis. So these are items that primarily relate to payroll, withholdings, etc. There's probably a half a dozen different accounts that, for instance, an employee also has a spouse covered for health insurance, and the money comes out of their check and it goes into this liability account until it's paid. Well, we are recommending that these accounts be reconciled on a periodic basis, more so than they are currently. Now, those of you that have been on the board for some time might recall this same finding in the past, and it's certainly prevalent in a number of school boards that I've audited, such that it kind of it's kind of a forgotten area almost. But we do recommend that at least quarterly and preferably monthly, that those balances are analyzed, and there's multitude of transactions that enter into them, so that the balances will be, materially correct and no significant adjustments will be necessary. The second item relates to budget. We had one budget over expenditure in the current expense fund. So basically what happened, in analyzing the budget, there were amendments recorded and approved on a regular basis. So the budget was monitored, significantly during the year. At year end, there was a lot more that was recorded in accounts payable, which is, that's when you have goods and services that have been received but not paid for yet until after year end. Well, that number went higher than anticipated, and it caused an overage in the expenditure side for current expense. So basically there we're recommending to provide enough cushion for something of this nature, and just make sure that budget's monitored right up to the last day, so that any surprises, you'd have some room in your budget. Other items of a lesser extent than significant deficiencies would be matters that we might relate just on a daily basis while we're here, in discussions with the finance officer. And again, those do not rise to the level of anything that would need to be reported to the governing board. So that would conclude my presentation. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that anyone may have.
No questions. Just like to commend Mr. Adams and his staff for doing such a fine job with monitoring and handling our budget. You did good.
Mr. Davenport, we appreciate you
Thank
and
you.
your staff for your efforts to conduct the audit.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our 2019-2020 budget calendar with Mr. Adams.
Thank you, board members. The 19-20 budget season has come. It seems like we just finalized the 18-19 budget, and here we are beginning 19-20 preparations. The budget calendar before you sets a timeline, so we'll meet those goals that we're required for budget purposes through legislation. You'll see those highlighted in bold. Those are the legislative requirements that we present our budget message to the board and then to our county commissioners by certain dates. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just a question to refresh my memory. Do we have to have this as an action item next month, or is it just a reading?
It is not. It's just a presentation item that we set this calendar.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And last item on our presentation portion is the financial report.
Yes, sir. The December 2018 financial report summarizes budget and year-to-date activity for all Lenore County Board of Education funds as of December 31st. The report also includes the local fund balance that's been adjusted for those, for our audit and those related adjustments.
Any questions for Mr. Adams? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll move to our action item portion of the agenda. Tonight's very short. And we'll recognize Mr. Harvey for surplus items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, the Technology Department requests that the attached items be deemed surplus with the proceeds returned to their department. And there's an image there for you.
There's probably one question that had been asked earlier, a board member asked about for instance, some iPads that were on there and laptops, and I reported them, these were not ones that we could trade in. They didn't have any trade-in value. They were the first series iPads, and the laptops that it had outlived their value.
So no other questions for Mr. Harvey. I'll accept the motion to approve the surplus sale of these items.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Davis,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. All in favor of selling these surplus items, please raise your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Now we'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that Lenore County Board of Education go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hill, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. We're now in closed session. Call the meeting back into open session and entertain a motion to approve the personnel report.
Motion to approve the personnel report and addendum as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hill and second by Mr. Smith. If there's no discussion or no questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
A motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Woods. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Let's do it.